All right, here we go, man. Lathan.
What up, man?
What up, man? Now, this is our first official interview. We did a little something back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, my old house.
Right.
This is our first official
This is the first one, yeah, with the whole setup with the fucking drums. You always got the drum kit in the background and all of that shit. So I feel like, this is my Vlad debut.
Exactly. And me and you go back like, what, 8 years?
8 years now, something like that,
man. Yeah, you know, a lot has happened during those 8 years.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get into it. Since this is our first official sit down, I want to start in the very beginning.
Uh-huh.
So you're born and raised in Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana, yeah.
Yep. So what was Baton Rouge like in the 90s?
Oh, man. Baton Rouge is a beautiful place to grow up. Like an amazing place to grow up. It's a place that like, there's so much shit going on that when you look at it now as an adult, you're like, God damn, that was fucked up. But it doesn't really feel that way when you're there. Like I lived in a couple places. I lived in South Baton Rouge, but primarily like I lived on Gardere Lane, you know. And if you Google Gardere Lane, you're going to see videos of fights and stuff like that. You're going to see this one video where everybody around there and they got guns and they're going crazy and they're going the lane and all of that. But growing up there, it seemed like a neighborhood and a community that had its problems, but that, you know, it was dope. You felt safe. You felt protected. But, you know, a lot of the homies that I grew up with in Baton Rouge, they didn't make it out. And it was one cluster in my life where people just started turning up dead. And that's kind of when I started to realize that, you know, it's not the easiest place to grow up, man. It's not the easiest place to grow up, but I love Baton Rouge more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of us, people like myself who've never been, I know about Baton Rouge because of Boosie.
Yeah.
Right? Uh-huh. Like, how big of a figure was Boosie when you were growing up?
Well, he's a couple years younger than me.
Yeah.
So, and we went to the same high school.
Ah.
Yeah, so he's a couple years younger than me. Me and his brother were pretty cool. Me and his brother went to the same middle school and the same high school. So, he wasn't that big of a figure really until college. He was a popular guy at the high school. Like, everybody loved him. As soon as he came on campus, a couple years younger than Takori, everybody loved him. He was Boosie then. Like, that was his name, Boosie. That was his nickname. Cool kid, funny kid, good basketball player. Like, good basketball player. Small, but could hoop. And then when I went away to college and I came back, it was like he had become this big rapper. And then he was pretty much the voice of Baton Rouge from then on.
He really was. He really was. And now, you yourself, your parents are Terry and Crystal?
Well, yeah, my father passed away this year, but...
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, he passed away this past July, but yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Sorry to hear that.
So, yeah, it's okay. We dealing with it.
Yeah, my dad passed away a few years ago. It's rough losing your dad.
Yeah, it's very rough.
Okay, and you have an older sister.
My older sister, Ebony Lathan. Ebony Rage Lathan.
Quite a middle name. Rage.
Well, that's not her actual middle name. Her actual middle name is ghetto as fuck. It's Laveda. But my sister was a poet, or is a poet, very talented. And her poetry was very angry. So she was given the moniker Rage, and now she is Ebony Rage Lathan.
Okay, that's not the name that your mom.
No. They didn't see her and then go, it's an angry little baby. Let's call her Rage.
Angry little baby.
Right.
I can be angry as a baby. Like,
right.
Right. And it's interesting. I actually looked up her social media, and she had a tweet about Boosie.
She did. What she said?
She did. And this was after Boosie, you know, the whole Lil Nas X thing where he called him the F word and said to kill himself and so forth. Ebony went on Twitter. She said, report Boosie's page. Get the account banned. This fool told Lil Nas X to kill himself and called him homophobic slurs. All this from a man who could barely sell records now. And then there's a bunch of hashtags after that, like, fuck Lil Boosie, hashtag homophobia, hashtag violence, you know, hashtag black LGBTQ and so forth.
Right.
You know, when you saw that, what did you think? Being from Baton Rouge, knowing about Boosie, loving your sister, and so forth.
Well, my sister is gay.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Okay. I kind of assumed that, but I didn't want to you know, say it.
Right. Yeah. My sister's gay. So being that my sister's gay, not necessarily that you would have to be to feel that way about some of the things that Boosie said, but of course you can understand why she wouldn't be in favor of anyone suggesting that somebody who is gay kill themselves. Now we have to be honest, like this has gone way too far. It has, you know. And to be honest with you, when you're looking at it from this standpoint, you have to start to think about the ideas that are being, I guess, re-perpetuated by some of the language that Boosie is putting out there. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I've known him and members of his family for a while. We weren't like best friends or anything like that. And it's hard for me not to want to see somebody from Baton Rouge like blow up and get as much money as they can and get as popular as they can and get as much as they possibly can out of this game and out of this life. But the reality is the stuff that's going on right now is vile. And to be real with you, I don't even think he knows how destructive this is.
Talking about Boosie?
Boosie, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think Boosie knows how bad and destructive the things are that he's saying. I don't think he gets the weight of it because you're talking about situations that go on for generations and generations when people have killed themselves. People have run away from home. People have been ostracized, beat up, you know what I mean, because of who they are. And it's something that group, the LGBT group, has decided they are not dealing with in the future. They are going to root out homophobia. They're going to root out transphobia, and they're going to make sure that they're not society's whipping boys and girls or just like, you know, have their head on the dartboard where everyone can get off on them. And so a guy like Lil Nas X or anyone else who is being them unabashedly and free is basically saying, I shouldn't have to hide. Shouldn't have to hide from you. I shouldn't have to hide from my safety. I shouldn't have to hide from my well-being. I shouldn't have to hide from my mental safety. And so when you come against the idea that somebody else should have to be less than who they are, it is hateful work. And I just think there needs to be like a real conversation about this, like a real conversation where you sit down and you relate to somebody on a human level. Because to be honest with you, anybody who knows him is never, ever going to say that that was somebody who didn't want to see other people do well. Or that was somebody that like was a hating ass nigga or in some way wanted to take something from somebody. Like the moment Boosie hit McKinley campus, like everybody loved him. And, you know, even if you didn't really know him, you would say, you know, the street shit aside, because I never got into any of that, you say good dude. Mm-hmm. But a lot of this shit now, obviously this is not being a good dude. We cannot have homophobia. We can't have people being told to kill themselves. We can't do any of this. That's reprehensible.
Well, Boosie's a regular on my show. And in fact, I've been interviewing Boosie and Webby when they first signed Atlantic Records back in like 2004. Yeah. So me and him go back like, 17, 18 years at this point. And, Boosie has felt the way he's felt, in terms of raising his kids a certain type of way and so forth. And I kind of feel like the back and forth between the two of them was relatively lighthearted, the whole time until this happened. Mm-hmm. And, I interviewed Boosie and we talked about this specific thing. The interview's not out yet, so people haven't really seen his full side of things yet. But essentially, what triggered him was Lil Nas X went on Instagram Live and announced that he has a song with Boosie.
Right.
Which was a lie.
Right.
Just wasn't true.
Right.
At the time, Boosie's dealing with his grandmother dying.
Right.
His grandmother's actually passed away.
Right.
Recently. But she was basically on her deathbed and, his phone was blowing up and everyone's like, oh, song with Lil Nas X, song with Lil Nas X. You got a song with Lil Nas X. And he snapped. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He reached his breaking point. And he used the F word. He said to kill himself, told Nas to kill himself and so forth. And I told him I don't agree with some of the wording that he said, but also I recognize that in a way, Lil Nas X was poking him in a way where when Boosie snapped, Lil Nas could say, see, look, he's the bad guy. See, look, he's the bad guy. But But Lil Nas X was in this particular case, I felt was the aggressor and was purposely messing with Boosie when Boosie was essentially minding his business that day.
It's a fair point. So this is what I would say to that. I was in maybe like the 10th grade, right? I was in maybe like the 10th grade and I was in one of my classes, like an algebra class or something like that. I can't remember exactly what was going on. And there were these girls over on the wall. I remember their names, but I'm not going to say them now. I have people blow up their social media and shit. And they were going at one of the other baseball players. This was at McKinley High. And I remember I said, yo, like, leave him alone. Like, why y'all acting like that? Why are y'all acting like that? Like, stop fucking with him. Like, leave him alone. Y'all acting real corny. And wow, this is corny for y'all to be on his ass like that. And she goes, shut up, little nigger. That's what she said.
The white girl?
White girl, yeah. I initiated, for whatever reason, I initiated that between her and I, right? I initiated that. I jumped into something I didn't have nothing to do with, right? Right. I did, you know. My opinion of that is, at some point, you're responsible for what you put out into the world, and your response has to be proportional. Losing your grandmother, like I told you, I lost my father this year. I couldn't even imagine losing my mama, who, and down south, I know how important our grandparents are to us.
Right.
That is that's like horrible, and that's an emotionally raw place to be. But it's also probably a place that you shouldn't be tweeting from, you know? True. It's probably a place that you shouldn't be, if you're not in the right frame of mind, then maybe take a step back. And even if you do something and it's out of emotion and it's out of whatever it is, there's nothing wrong in this case with saying, hey, that was too far. Because Lil Nas X was fucking with him. He was. And you can never tell anybody how they're going to respond to something. But as a society, we can say that response is too much. And to be real, like, I think over time, this is a good indication. People talk about canceling people, and let me tell you why I feel like Boosie shouldn't be canceled and why people shouldn't even use the term cancel like that anymore. Because if you think it's bigger than Boosie, if you think that there are people that are where I'm from that don't agree with that don't look at that as somebody who's fighting against a way the society is going that they don't like, then you're out of your fucking mind. And the question becomes, well, what do we do with those people? Do we put them in a room somewhere and cut out the lights where they can't say nothing, where they can't hear nothing, where they're not a part of society? Or do we, maybe not the LGBTQ community, because they have to care about their own safety and who they are and preserving their lives. But it's really up to guys like me or Charlemagne or other people, either intermediaries, to talk to our brothers from the community that might still be harboring those beliefs and let them know that that's kind of whack. So the reality is we can't stop talking to Boosie. You can't cancel Boosie. Boosie said you can't cancel him. He said it's ghetto everywhere, and he's right. You can't.
Right.
And you shouldn't want to. What you should want to do is look at one of your brothers and be like, yo, man, this is how we can come together and do better on this. This is how we can get together and understand what it is that's going on and how other people's lives are being impacted by some of the things that we say and do. And that's a conversation that we have to be willing to have, and that's a conversation that he has to be willing to have. But the reality is, in no way, love Boosie to death, love Trill, love Turk and Mel, love everything that they were able to do down there, because they put my city on the map, and I'll never forget being out here and hearing Baton Rouge on the radio. But that right there, I can't fuck with that. And I never will. 1,000 years in the future, 1,000 years from that future, I'm never going to fuck with telling someone to go and kill themselves because of the way that they are. Now, the clapback, if you want to clap back on Lil Nas X, that's cool. Clap back on Lil Nas X, that's cool. But when you say you're an F word and you need to kill yourself, you didn't clap back on him. You clapped back on all of the people in his community. You clapped back on everybody when you use that word and when you say that. And the same thing, if I'm in an argument with a white boy or whatever, or somebody else, and they want to say something to me, want to get back at me, the minute the N-word flies out of your mouth, the minute you bring all of black people into it, now you've taken it to a new level and you've roped us all in the same thing, and we got to talk about that language.
Unlike someone like the Baby or whoever else, Boosie didn't get canceled at all. None of his shows got axed. He wasn't on any big festivals anyways. He didn't care. The festivals he does do are his own festivals. He has his own fan base. And I think it's interesting how you compare sort of like a mainstream guy who's getting radio play like the Baby and the effects of having to apologize to 10 different organizations and do public apologies and so forth, and someone like the Boosie who's built up their own thing with their own kind of homegrown fan base that basically says, well, if you don't like it, I'm going to be okay.
Vlad, there is no love like love from the hood.
Yeah.
There is no love like love from the hood.
Right.
It's just not like corporate love don't compare to love from the hood. Corporate love is so fickle.
Right.
Corporate love is about
so true.
Corporate love is about how much money you can make for the corporation. So bust this. If there's all kinds of things that is in this music that is all fucked up, right? But because we accept it, the corporation knows that we like it and we buy it, so they'll put it on there, no problem. Whatever it is, no problem, they'll put it up there. That's because we accept that. A lot of people say the corporation should make a stance against some of the violence in the music. No, they're never going to make a stance because all they care about is selling the music. So since they care about selling the music, then if we're buying the music, we're telling them what we want to be on the stage, right? So they don't care about that. So as soon as you say something that enough of a group of people, whether they're large in numbers or large in voice, as soon as they feel like the money is fucked up, you're done with the corporation. The hood, it takes a lot for the hood to stop loving you. Because let's be honest, the hood has loved worse. Mama's got to go see sons that done killed people, that done dealt drugs. You got all kinds of fucked up family dynamics. You got all kinds of people around the hood that we got to find a way to love. One of the things in growing up in a specific place is finding a way to love people who are in your family, who are around you, that have done things that are reprehensible and really wrong. You just know them. Like you go to jail so many times to visit your uncles. Jail is not a huge thing to me. It's like when I got to TMZ, I would be talking to people and they would be like, yeah, my brother, the Khan, or my cousin, we got one in the family. I'd be like, y'all got one in the family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, in my opinion, you done some time. That doesn't mean you're a bad person. Not at all. The dude who taught me to use my left hand in basketball, I didn't meet him physically till I was 14 years old because he had been in hunts in Angola the whole time. So what I'm saying is there's a different way that we love. We love in the hood. We love through flaws. We love through bad decisions. We love through bad outcomes. So that's the type of love that Boosie has. He has love from people who really had to love in some of the toughest circumstances. But that's why it's also important to be able to talk with him, because that same love can be weaponized in a much more beautiful way. That same love can be like, if you can take that, right? If you can take all of that, because Boosie got like more like an army, right? People that's going to come out no matter what, and they're going to be there no matter what he does. And remember, they loved him out of jail. You know, that's how much they loved him. It was free Boosie. I was on it too. It was free Boosie everywhere. It was like they loved him till he came home. Out of prison, actually. They loved him till he came back, right? So if you can take that and he can be somebody who can show people that we can all grow and that there's room, especially in some of these Black communities in our neighborhoods, for everybody to live and be who they are, right? That we all are the same, then that's why you don't want to cancel that. You don't want to cancel that because you have to be able to counsel it. And I'm not saying that it's anybody's job from the LGBTQ community to do it, because they have to be concerned with their lives and they can't have that type of speech being out there and being unchallenged. But that's why guys like me and other guys, we have to be willing to still engage and still have room at the table to talk to some of these brothers and let them know that this is not the way that you go about this.
Yeah. And, you know, I just want to say this before we get off the topic.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like your comparison to getting involved in someone else's argument and being called the N-word is not exactly the same as this particular.
It's not completely
right.
analogous.
And what I will compare it to is this. Remember on, what was it, Jenny Jones a long time ago when they had the My Secret Crush
and then the dude
episode?
Right.
So let me just kind of fill everyone in who may not know about this. So on the show, they had My Secret Crush, where they would bring in someone who had a crush on the person who they didn't know who it was. They reveal the person on the show. In this particular case, a man agreed to go on the show, and before the episode aired, he asked them. He said, "Well, is it a man or a woman?" And they were kind of like, "Oh, it's a woman. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." He comes on the show, national television, and ends up being a man.
Right.
So he's very, very embarrassed and so forth. And then after the show, the man reaches out to him and is like, "Oh, if you want to, explore this relationship, come holler at me. Here's my address, whatever." With all the embarrassment and so forth, the guy snapped, ended up going to the gay man's house and killing him.
Mm-hmm.
Not justifiable at all. Horrible end to this whole kind of situation. But this is once again the poking of the bear, kind of like embarrassing the person, because Boosie was being embarrassed by saying that he has a song with Lil Nas X when he's been saying, like, I don't really mess with this dude's music or how he's presenting himself. Right. And you have luckily a very non-violent reaction. Granted, the words were very harsh and so forth, but I think that's more of a comparison than what you actually laid out.
So the reason why I laid out what I was laid out is because it wasn't about that, but then it came back. But let me dig deeper into what you just said in both cases with Boosie and the Jenny Jones thing. Mm-hmm. Why is it so embarrassing? So see, that's the thing. So why is it so embarrassing? Like a guy, you go to the My Secret Crush thing, you go up there, it's a guy. Okay?
Yeah.
If you're not gay, you laugh, oh, this shit is wild.
Yeah. I personally wouldn't care.
You know what I mean? Like
if it was me on the show and they brought out a guy, like I've been hit on by guys before, it's whatever. I don't care. You go to the thing, wow, hey man, cool, happy you got your TV moment, whatever. I'm not interested. I'm not gay. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. Hey, hope you find love. Yeah.
Why in society does that guy feel like that the only way to reassert his manhood or to get his manhood back is to go and kill the person that I guess
questioned his sexuality
in front of everyone? That is the thing. The thing that provokes the super violent response, the thing that provokes the kill yourself response, that's the fragility that we're trying to examine. And that to me, what I was saying before just happened to do with like what I was talking about before was you just took it to a place that we weren't on. You know what I mean? You brought something into it that we weren't on. In this situation, if Lil Nas X, the fact that Lil Nas X, that Boosie would make a song with Lil Nas X, infuriated Boosie to the point to where he told Lil Nas X to get himself off the planet forever and ever and ever, a billion years from now, no more Lil Nas X, right? So that's what we have to examine. We don't need to operate that like that. That's not that big of a deal. Even if Lil Nas X wanted to do a song with Boosie, which by the way, if they did do a song together, would be the biggest moment. And it would be so amazing for everyone involved. If they got to a point,
I agree,
where they could actually do a song together, it would be absolutely fantastic. Because you don't have to walk in Lil Nas X's shoes if you're Boosie, and you don't have to walk in Boosie's shoes as Lil Nas X, but you just have to agree that in this society, we can all walk together. Yeah. And so that's my thing.
Well, when you talk about you don't get the love from the hood, anywhere else, there's also a flip side of it, right? And one of our famous interviews that really has kind of gone viral many times over with me and Boosie was a Hypnotized with Hatred interview, where at the time, he was the king of Baton Rouge, which you could co-sign. Yeah, he was the hottest dude, smoking, but he said that it got so bad for him to the point where all these people around him started becoming jealous of his success, where they wanted to kill him. You know, I mean, he was getting caught up in situations. The police were messing with him, that he actually had to leave Baton Rouge, move to Atlanta, where he set up shop permanently, moved his whole family, bought a house, whatever else, and doesn't really, you know, spend a lot of time in Baton Rouge anymore because he felt that the hood, certain people in the hood just became so jealous that they became hypnotized and just wanted to take him off the earth.
Yeah.
Rappers die in their own city, man. It's a fact. And you know, you have haters who was in school with you and they mad because they was in that third grade class with you, but they don't have the same hustle as you. You know, they hate you for no reason. They hate you for your success. If you was a local rapper and you didn't have much, they would love you. You know, and these people, you develop hatred in your own city. You know, if you go to Canada, you go to New York, you from Louisiana, you don't have hate, you don't have people want to hurt you because they don't know you. You know, they don't know you, and that's why I decided to move to Atlanta. You know, if I'm dealing with music, this is a place I need to be. You know, everybody ride foreign cars out here. I won't be pulled. I haven't been pulled over since I've been out here, but to take a picture and get an autograph. You know, they respect stars out here, man. They don't hate stars just because you're a star. They don't. That's how it is in Louisiana. If you go back, all Louisiana rappers, the big timers, they was ran out of Louisiana, man, because of hatred. Baby and Wayne, you know, hatred, man. Master P, they ran him out the country club, man, just hatred, man. C Murder, he's in prison. Mac, he's in prison. You know, and you just, it's just not a place to be, man. It's a lot going on in that state that's not 100, man. That's not fair, you know, even from the laws, even from the sentencing, even from the education is poor. Everything is it's a hard state, man, and I just wasn't with it, man, and I'll never move back down there. You know, I would never move back into that. I would be crazy for moving back to Baton Rouge. Like it won't happen. I just go down there if I got to do a show, get my money, and I'm gone.
Now, coming from Baton Rouge, do you understand this whole situation?
Yeah, of course. I remember I was talking to one of my big cousins one time, and I was like, looking on TV. I can't remember what movie it was where, I was watching Weird Science. And in Weird Kelly LeBrock, she can do anything because they created her. She's artificial. She's got powers and shit, right?
Right.
And she had made their car a Porsche. And when I was watching Weird Science, it's the first time I ever saw a Porsche, and the Porsche looked cool to me. I think it was a Porsche. I'm pretty sure it was a Porsche. And I remember saying, I'm going to get rich and buy me a Porsche, and I'm going to drive my Porsche down Delpit or in the South from my grandfather's house. My grandfather lived on Carolina Street. I'm going to drive my Porsche around. And my big cousin, this is like in the early 80s or late 80s or early 90s, he says, nigga, you drive that around here, they'll kill you. I'm like, why? He's like, you ain't gonna drive that, show all of that. Them niggas will kill you. They see you in that. Remember, the hood loves different and they hate different. Both of them. They love you more and they hate you more. And it only takes a handful of them to hate you for your life to be ended, right? Because what happens is in a place where people don't have a lot, what you have becomes a reminder of what they don't have.
Yeah.
And that'll happen. That's not a gene. That's not a black thing. That'll happen anywhere.
Yeah.
People try to act like there's some specific evil that exists in the black community where we can't come along. No, you take people and put them in a situation that is depressed, you know what I mean? And you're going to see them go into a survival matrix. And a survival matrix means, hey, the three of us are in this room. I have to stay alive. Well, I got to eat one of y'all, you know? And you don't know that. If you're flying in the plane, remember the Argentine soccer team or whatever it was, their plane crashed, that movie Alive.
Yeah.
And their plane is flying along while they're in the sky and everybody has everything that their needs. Hey, you want some peanuts? Ask for some peanuts. Okay. You want some water? Ask for some water. Stewardess bring you some water. You have everything you need. The guy sitting next to you is your friend. Plane crashes. Now you have to survive. You have to eat your friend. Now, the survival matrix that Black Americans have been put in for a long time it makes us think that we can't be together, that we can't get together, that someone has to win at all times and that someone has to lose. So unfortunately, the situation that Boosie was facing in Baton Rouge, I've never faced it because number one, I wasn't in the street like that. And number two, I wasn't a reminder of what people in the neighborhood didn't have, but he was. They just was with him. Like, think about that. I was just with this nigga. I was just with him. And now he done blown up everywhere. And you got guys that want to see that end. They're mad about it. So it probably is true.
Yeah. Sad.
And very sad.
Very sad. Okay. So you're growing up in Baton Rouge and then you go to college.
Yeah.
What school did you go to?
Louisiana Tech and Southern University.
Okay. And you're a political science, creative writing major?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know at that time what you want to do with your life?
No. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer.
Right. We all went through that phase.
I thought I wanted to be a lawyer.
Point, yeah.
I thought I wanted to be a lawyer. It's like, and it's, coming from Louisiana, coming from Baton Rouge specifically, like it's a very legal community because it's the state capital. So a lot of the people that you knew, like Cleo Fields, Joe Delpit, all of those guys that were like the bars of Baton Rouge success, at least to me, they were involved in politics in some way. So I thought, hey, I wanted to be a lawyer and then get into politics. And then you get to college and you start figuring out like how you see the world and what you like about the world. And you realize that I don't want to fucking be filing motions for the rest of my life and doing that. That's not my thing. I want to create something. Yeah.
Okay. So you graduated in 2003.
Yeah.
How soon after that do you move to LA?
2 years after.
Okay. Was there a reason behind the move?
Hurricane Katrina.
Ah, right.
Yeah. So I was working on a movie called The Reaping. And it's funny about this. I was working on a movie called The Reaping. So there's a Walmart on Perkins Road in Baton Rouge, and they had taken the Walmart and turned it into a soundstage because it was a Walmart, an abandoned Walmart. They had built a new Walmart. Building a new fucking Walmart, like in my hometown, is literally like launching a new fucking space shuttle into space. Like people would be like, yo, man, I don't know if you heard, bruh, but it's a new fucking Walmart coming on College Drive. What you think they're gonna have in it? They might have all kinds of shit in that bitch. Like, what's gonna be in the new Walmart? Because the old Walmart they were starting to get the groceries, but now this new one, bruh, it's fucking crazy. So they built a new Walmart on College Drive, and the old Walmart that was on Perkins Road, it was just there, it was abandoned. And I had worked a show before on Southern University's campus called College Hill. College Hill was the first Black reality show that they had. It was about all of these college kids or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I worked on that show, and that had got me kind of into the Louisiana film and production scene. You know what I mean? And so I got the job on The Reaping, and this was different because this movie was like a big production. It had Idris Elba in it. And it's so weird that I met Idris Elba on that movie all of that time ago, and now me and him have the same manager. Shit just like goes full circle. Shout out to Arundé Garrett. But Hilary Swank was in it. It was directed by Stephen Hopkins, this big, huge production. And my job on the movie was to be the stage manager. So I had to go there and early in the morning and like unlock the sound stage, let transportation in and everybody in, make sure that everything was good to go. They were building sets inside of it. And then at the end of the day, I had to lock it up and like coordinate everything that was in there. Well, I was spending so much time on the set that I brought an air mattress. I just said, fuck it. I just literally brought an air mattress and I started sleeping there. And then like people around there started to see it. They started to be like, are you seriously like not going home? And I was like, yeah, it's no big deal. I'll lock this up. I'll get in my car. I'll go to my homeboy Gino's house. You know what I mean? Gino lived in Walter McLaughlin. He lived in Stratford Place. That's not too far from where the College Drive Walmart was. I go there and hang out, shower, whatever, come back. You know, do my whole thing. It's like not that big of a deal. And to them, that showed some kind of uncanny work ethic or whatever. But for me, I was just in my element. It felt like home. Watching people create, the petty shit that goes on set, the problem solving that's involved. in being on set, all of that stuff. It was like, it seemed like this is the shit for me. All those stories that I grew up idolizing, because growing up, I was like into all of these situations. I'll tell you a quick story before I get back on point. I'm watching Do the Right Thing with my mom, and I've told this story before. I'm watching Do the Right Thing with my mom. And my mom notices that while we're watching the movies, must have been like 91, maybe even before then, because I was a little guy. And my mom notices while I'm watching the movie that I'm actually into it and I can follow it, because that's a movie that's it's heady. It has to do with a lot of microaggressions. It has to do with a lot of social inequality and stuff like that. There's subplot to everything going on in Do the Right Thing. The tension that exists when many different groups have to occupy the same space on a hot day in New York City. But she sees that I'm getting it, and this intrigues her. She's like, man, like, you like this movie? I'm like, yeah. She was like, well, Mookie, the guy who plays Mookie, she's like, he wrote and directed the movie.
Right.
And I looked at her and I go, well, what does that mean? And she said, well, he made it all up. And when they're actually doing the movie, he tells everybody what they have to do, where the cameras go. The whole movie comes out of his brain. I looked back at my mom, did not miss a beat. And I said, they let Black people do that?
Wow. Okay.
Like, for real? And she will never, ever, if she was right here, she'd bust out and start crying. She would be like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Who's telling you what you can and cannot do? You can do whatever you want to do. If that's what you want to do, yeah, you can do that. He's not the first person that do that. He won't be the last person that do that. And she would just take out of my mind the shit that I couldn't do, right? When I was on set of The Reaping, which ended up not being a great movie, I saw people doing it. It became like not something that was for people in New York or LA or Chicago or Miami. It became something that somewhere people are doing. The question is, are you gonna fucking do it? You know what I mean? So during that production, the hurricane comes, fucks everything up. Comes during the production. We started shooting in like July of 2005. The hurricane came late August 2005, and immediately South Louisiana turned into something that was just triggering from all sides. It felt like the end of the world. Like what do you do when you go to the grocery store and there's like no bread? What happens now? What do you do when you go to a gas station, there's no gas? What do you do when like there's nowhere to go, there's nothing, like you can't run from the fact that your society is broken? The power's out. Like I come to the set one day, or come to the thing one day, and there are choppers everywhere. And like outside the Walmart, there are choppers everywhere. They're like big fucking transportation, army vehicles everywhere in the parking lot, because FEMA was using it, or the Emergency Management Service was using it as a jump-off spot to try to get shit down to New Orleans. So after having done that, we ended up finishing the movie, I think in like December. By February, I was out. I was like, none of this shit has to be here. It's all so fragile. Why don't you just go to California and give it a shot?
Okay, so then you move to LA.
Yeah.
In 2005, I guess?
February 2006.
2006. Okay. So as someone that's made the move to LA, I mean, in fact, I remember I made my first move to LA before I was established.
Mm-hmm.
I spent about 6 months there,
mm-hmm.
and I gave up. I moved right back to New York again. I'm like, this is ridiculous. The whole like fakeness and run around and everything. I got to experience it because there was no VladTV yet. It was just DJ Vlad, the mixtape DJ, and people were giving me the runaround and wasting my time. And I'm like, okay, cool. I came back years later when I was established and I didn't really need anyone to help me. And it was okay. But saying that, LA is a very rough place when you show up with no name, no reputation, no connections. You just got to figure it out, because every day there's literally thousands of kids like yourself showing up with those same dreams. And ultimately, most of them, it doesn't work out for.
Mm-hmm.
So you get there, and what happens?
So I'm going to say something to you right now. I'm going to say that this goes to everyone. All right? Say something to you right now.
Mm-hmm.
The fakeness of LA Anybody that talks about how fake LA was, that was your fault when you were out here. Because you were trying to do a Hollywood thing, right? And you were trying to build yourself up. And in building yourself up, what you were tapping into was the fake people of LA, because that's what you thought you needed to do. When you were in New York, you made yourself and did whatever you had to do. And when you came back, you didn't need any of those people. Now you're out here in LA, the house, the Maserati, the family, all of that stuff. You know what your tribe is. LA to me is not about how fake LA is. To me, LA exposes the person's inner fakeness. And it's not necessarily whether or not the person is fake. It's whether or not they can find something that's real here. And are you trying to find something that's real here? When I got to LA, I did not automatically try to go to the top of the industry. I just tried to live in the city. I got a job as a game taper. There was a video game show called Cybernet. I just wanted to be here. I wasn't trying to win. I wasn't trying to get on. I was just trying to be here as a person. There's a video game called Cybernet, a video game show called Cybernet. I took a job, $500 a week, taping video games. So I would come in the morning. There would be a stack of video games. This is the best fucking job ever. I had to play the video games and put them on tape, then give them to the fucking editors or help them edit. And then we would edit the video games for the show. Then I would write stuff. I would do all that. And that was the first job in production I had in LA. There was nothing LA about it. I had to ride the bus. First from here in Van Nuys. Oh, I don't want to say where you're at.
You can say Van Nuys.
Yeah. Like I had to ride the bus from Van Nuys to Burbank at first, and then I moved. And I had to ride the bus from Pico and Fairfax all the way to Burbank every morning. Nothing glitzy, no glamour about it. The people that I met in LA were real people that lived here, that had all kinds of things that they were doing. I ended up going to the basketball court to hoop, to play basketball. I met all kinds of niggas on the basketball court. Like real people. Some actors and some other people like that, but real people. And I established a base of friends here, people from all over the place that have all different types of diverse stories, because I wasn't looking to get anything from anyone. I was just figuring myself out as I was here. And I think the first thing that I would say to people that come out here is, when you come out here, be a person at first. The actor or the singer or whatever, go hoop, play basketball, meet people at the gym, go walk at Runyon Cannon. Be a person. And by the way, get out of Hollywood. Go where there's some real black people at. Hit Lamert on a Sunday or a Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Get down there to Long Beach. Get to where there's some real people at, and like curate your LA experience to bring the real out of the city. It's a real place, but some people gravitate towards the fake side of it.
Yeah, and I get your point. Coming from New York, and
you was trying to get that bottle service.
No, I wasn't trying to get
Vlad was
bottle
up there.
service.
Vlad was hitting Chris.
No, I was not.
Vlad was in Emerson. Vlad was trying to get that bottle service, and people weren't opening the doors. You're like, this is fake shit. Let me go back to New York. And then you came back. I bet you came back and you was established, and you came back and you started dropping your nuts on people, didn't you? Didn't you?
No, I didn't. I did not. I did not. But the thing is, I was already in the music industry already. You know, I was in New York. I was going to labels. I would be going to, you know, Double XL and The Source, you know, and I'd be, you know, going to studios and producers and so forth. And the one thing that I just noticed as the big difference between LA and New York is this. In New York, if you approach someone on a business level and you say, hey, listen, I want to do this type of business with you. And here is my initial proposal. And if you're interested, let's go ahead and have a meeting and see if it develops in some way. Mm-hmm. Someone in New York will say, you know, this doesn't really work for me. Let me explain to you why. I don't really want to do this. Let's not waste each other's time. And we're just going to keep it moving. And, you know, if you don't like my answer and you get upset, then that's just what it is. I'm going to go forward. In LA, they'll be like, oh, yeah, no, definitely. Let's set up a meeting tomorrow for 12 o'clock. Mm-hmm. You know, and these types of situations will happen over and over again, where I just like, like if you don't want to do business, just say you don't want to do business. But people in LA will always tell you yes, I feel it's almost like the culture. Always tell the person yes, because that's like the movie thing in a way. Like, oh yeah, let's not close the door to this potential thing. We're just going to keep them on ice and keep them strung along for a while, just in case we may decide to do this in the future. We're not really serious about it, but we'll go ahead and keep this guy's hope alive, even though we're not really seriously going to take, you know, this person's business very seriously. And I just went through that so many times. And I said, man, fuck this place. I went back to New York. And then when I came back to LA, which is where I live now for the last 8 years, and I just feel like I don't have to go through these types of situations with people anymore. It just got easier for me. But like I said, that's my experience. You have your experience.
No. I guess what I would say is, like, number one, I get people that hit me all the time that want to do stuff, especially now. And I really do want to do all of it. I really do want to do all of it. I really do. Like, I want to do all of the stuff. Sometimes you just can't. For me, I don't know that I experienced that much when I got here, because I tell people this all the time. Like, nobody helped me when I got here. No one. I'll tell you the person that helped me. Tommy Talley. Tommy Talley is a white boy that I grew up with in Baton Rouge that runs an audio-visual company in Baton Rouge right now. He directs video game movies, doing great, owns Airbnbs. When I first came out here, Tommy let me sleep on his couch. Tommy let me sleep on his couch for like a month and a half with him and his wife and their little baby in Hollywood. And that sustained me until I was able to get on my feet. But other than that, nobody put me on. Nobody, I got jobs, and then all through those jobs, I ended up figuring it out, right? But I never, that's why it makes it hard sometimes when people go, I just need a leg up, I just need help, I just need this, I need somebody to believe in me. I know, we all do. Everybody does. Everyone does, right? But for me, to me, the people that last in the city are the people who don't go home after 6 months. The people who gut it out, figure it out. Even if you working as a valet, even if you working as whatever, you just keep going there. You keep getting it. You keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. So it was just a different experience. Of course, there were people that told me that they were going to do certain things, that they didn't do them. Of course there were. Absolutely. I can think of big, huge names. When I was working for TMZ, I was stupid enough to, when I first got on the street with my camera, to believe that if I didn't shoot a celebrity, because sometimes celebrities will come and talk to you, and they would be like, oh man, I see you on the show, you're very talented, whatever. I'm really looking and doing something in this whole thing, in this whole situation, this genre, maybe a true television show or like a sitcom based on this. Like, rather than us do this interview right now, why don't you take my number down and send me over some ideas and we can build something out for you, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I did that a couple of times with people. I got snake oiled by people who just didn't want to be on TMZ that day. And then after a while, I'm like, fuck it. You know what I mean? And now when I see him, I jab him. And now there's one specific guy that I see him, I go, hey, are we still going to do that paparazzi show? Or is that just bullshit so I didn't shoot you on the street?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, nigga, yeah, I get you. So to me, there's obviously fakeness about LA, but look, man, it was fakeness where I come from. The people were a lot realer overall, but it's fakeness everywhere. You got to just find and tap into the real. That's what I would say to people.
Fair enough. By 2011, you end up joining TMZ as the tour bus driver. Or the guy, maybe not the driver, but the guy on the actual TMZ tour.
Yeah.
Now, was the TMZ tour already in effect by this point, or were you one of the first people to kind of help put it together?
One of the first 3 guys of the TMZ tour.
There you go. So here you are, college graduate. Mm-hmm. You've been hustling in LA for how many years now? 5, 6 years?
6.
6 years. Yeah. And I really want to point that out because people feel like, it's just easy. You should show up to LA, TMZ, you're on TV, it's just a fast track. No, 6 years of trying to figure it out, dead ends, low paying jobs.
2 years of unemployment.
Yeah, because I guess you took the job because your unemployment just got cut.
My unemployment got cut.
Because you had a Gillette commercial, I guess?
Yeah, I got put into a secret Gillette commercial. I was on my way to the basketball court. Somebody asked me, they're like, yo, do you want to be a part of a survey? If you be a part of a survey, we'll give you $500. $500 was all the money in the world to me at that time, right? Especially when your unemployment is $450 a month. I do the little survey. They go, wow, you were really great. There's actually something that, can be $1,000 if you actually go to Van Nuys, coincidentally, and do it. So I ended up doing it. Long story short, they were like, try all these products. use this toothpaste to brush your teeth, use this deodorant, do all of this. And then after a while, you go in this room and you shave with this razor, and then we'll ask you what you think about everything. And then, that'll be that. Well, while I was shaving with the razor, this guy jumps out and said, "Are you ready for the Gillette Fusion Pro Glide Challenge?" Yeah. And like, how's that razor? And I'm like tripping. I'm looking around because when I got in there, I tried to get on the scale to weigh myself, and the scale was broke. And there were two guys, like there was lockers, and there were two guys wearing like towels. And I'm asking them, like, "Yo, man, why does this scale work? Like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, what's the deal?" And they made it seem like a gym, but it obviously wasn't a gym because I walked into the front of the building. I was on a set, and it was obvious to me, but I still didn't know what was going on. That ended up killing my unemployment because being the upstanding citizen that I am, I reported the income. So when I reported the income, it readjusted my income. Well, I thought I made a lot of money, right? But it readjusted my quarterly income to the day rate of the commercial. And it took my unemployment from $450 a week, which was completely livable at that point for me, to $75 a week. And when it was $75 a week, I'm like, yo, I got to find a job. So I go to entertainmentcareers.net, first job, TMZ tour guide. I look it up. I get on there. Boom.
Okay. So now you're a tour guide for TMZ.
Yeah.
How long from doing the bus thing to actually going to the next level at TMZ?
Like being on a television show?
Well, because you're a cameraman after that, I guess?
I was a cameraman for the first 3 years of TMZ.
Aha.
Yeah.
Okay. So they took you off the bus and they give you a camera, and now you run up on people to interview them.
Wasn't like that. So what happened was I didn't have a car, right? So here's the thing. The tour bus, when it started off, it was only one bus, and it was 3 tour guides. Myself, a guy named Alex Getlin, and another guy named Keith Jordan. Keith was like the star tour guide at first, all right? But something ended up happening with Keith, a very funny incident. And then Keith lost his job. And so then Keith is great, but it was just funny. And so so after that, before then, we all had to share one bus, right? So they were scheduling tours, but there was only one bus for 3 guys. And I told them, I was like, yo, I'm not going to be able to sustain a life if I'm only working 1 or 2 days a week. You know what I mean? And they were like, okay, so this is what we'll do. We'll put you in the field as a field camera guy. Because at first it was like you could come in and PA around the office and all of that stuff like that. I was like, I don't want to really be a PA at this point, but you can be a field camera guy. So the minute that I started as a tour guide on the bus, I also was doing camera. So there would be 2 or 3 days a week that I would do tours, and then the rest of the days I would be on the street with my camera, but I didn't have a car, so I can only shoot one place. So I would, damn, I sound like a fucking loser. I was 31, no car. So I would go to either Bedford Drive or the Grove and just stay there all day and get shots.
Any crazy things happen along the way? Because, I think about my style of interviewing, and we have our own location. The person comes in, they know they're going to be interviewed. They sit down, they sign a release form. There's, multiple cameras and microphones in their face. They know they're going to be here for about an hour to 2 hours. But running up on someone when they're just minding their own business and sticking camera in their face, and although I know that sometimes it's not real, like for example, when I did my first and only TMZ interview that you set up for me, it wasn't like you caught me in the street. We scheduled it.
Right, yeah.
We met and so forth.
I did that a bunch of times, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying, a lot of the TMZ interviews, you actually are catching people at the airport, catching people coming out of a restaurant.
95%.
There you go.
90 to 95%.
Yeah. Like I remember I interviewed someone for a job position of VladTV recently, and they said how, they try to film Suge Knight, and they said they're TMZ, and Suge literally chased them around the parking lot.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like this type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
True story. So as you're running up on people with a camera and saying you're TMZ, which is not the most beloved platform on earth, you know what I'm saying? It's got its, its lovers and its haters. Did anything ever happen where you felt like, okay, this might get a little dangerous, or this is uncomfortable, or?
Lamar Odom interview.
Oh, really? I know. I've interviewed Lamar. Okay.
This was years later. So this was after I was finished being a camera guy.
Okay.
I was done being a camera guy by the time the Lamar Odom interview happened. So I was a camera guy for 3 years, and then I became a producer on television. The whole time, though, as far as me going from tour bus to TV, it literally was like I started with the tour in April. By, I think, June, I was on TV every day. And it was just the complete change in my life. I was on television every day. People telling you, hey, didn't know you're the guy from TMZ. Just changed that quickly. But no, so years later, after I had become a producer, because 3 years was then, we changed offices and I became a producer. TMZ had run a story about Lamar Odom. I was not yet... I don't think that I was in the office when they had run the story. Actually, I might have still been on camera at this point. Maybe I was off shooting and I hadn't come back yet. So maybe I wasn't a producer yet. But anyway, TMZ had run a story about Lamar Odom. I didn't even see the story. I didn't see it. So I get back to the office and I see people at Harvey's desk and they're talking. And apparently Lamar Odom had called the office. And he had called the office because he wanted to come into the office and directly challenge whatever the story was, right? Whatever the story was, he wanted to talk to them directly. He wanted an interview inside of TMZ to talk specifically about the coverage about him that was going on the website.
What was the coverage?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I can't remember what was being said, but this was the time when he was going through a lot of issues that he was having and stuff prior to what happened to him in Nevada. And, you know, luckily our brother did not pass away. But anyway, they were scared. Like they didn't want him to come into the office, right?
Big guy.
Big dude, right?
7 feet tall, yeah.
They were scared, but they also did not want to not do the interview.
Right.
So, and this is how sometimes you get played too. So I walk into the office and they're like, yo, Van, do you want to interview Lamar Odom? And I'm like, hell yeah.
Not knowing.
I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. Hell yeah. I want to interview 2-time Lakers champ. You know what I mean? One of the nicest ever 6'10" ball handler, could pass, could shoot, could do all of this stuff. And he was like, well, just let you know, he wants to talk about some of the coverage of the site. I'm like, still, I've done it before. It's all great. It's all great. This is when I should have known that it was going to be a tough moment because they didn't want him to come inside. See, at first I'm coming in there and I'm like, okay, well, we'll just set up and we'll go do what TMZ Live is, or we'll go into the other room and we'll set up and we'll do an interview. We've done interviews in TMZ for people all the time. It's not that big of a deal. But they were like, no, we don't want him to come in. And I'm like, why? And they're like, he's a little, we don't want him to come in. We don't want him to come in. I'm like, oh, okay. So do you want me to drive out somewhere and shoot him somewhere? And they're like, no, he's still going to come here. I'm like, okay, so how are we going to do the interview? At TMZ, you could not film in the parking lot if you were from TMZ. There were other people that shared the space with them. So be it Microsoft or Verizon or whatever. And sometimes those people would have celebrities to come visit their spaces if they're doing a mocap, if they got a video game coming out or whatever. And they didn't want celebrities or people that were notable being shot by TMZ on the way in. So in order to get the space, TMZ had to make a deal with the place that said they would not shoot anyone. If you're a TMZ employee, you could not take any pictures of any kind in the parking lot. It was like a $10,000 fine. So Lamar Odom couldn't come to the parking lot. They wanted me to go across the street and shoot him in the Home Depot parking lot that was across the street from TMZ. And I'm like, just dumb. I'm like, all right, okay, cool. It's Lamar Odom. Like, I'll shoot him and talk to him. It's like, whatever, because once again, I've done interviews with people on the street that are kind of contentious, but I'm charming. I'm disarming. I can get you to, hey, man, it's me, Van, hey. And then, you know, by the end of it, we're cool. You know, that's how it always would work out. I remember I'm walking out of the building with my camera and there's a security guard following me. And I'm like, yo, man, what do y'all think is about to happen? Because remember, I wasn't on the phone with Harvey when he was having the conversation with him. It's like, no, I'm just going to make sure, you know, just walk you over across the street or whatever. I'm like, cool, whatever. I get into the parking lot. I'm looking for Lamar Odom. I don't see him. But then all of a sudden, I see him, right? Big, tall guy, like over the cars or whatever. And I say, yo, Lamar, what's up, brother? And he goes, you ain't my fucking brother. And I was like, oh, boy.
Here we go.
Here the fuck we go. here we go. So I come over there. I give Lamar a mic. I mic up. Security guard is there. Now people see Lamar Odom. They recognize him. They're coming out of the offices from around. Everyone is on the street. Like the whole office park from the reserve, which is where TMZ is at, they come out and they start watching it. Everybody's watching it. Everybody's looking at it. And I give Lamar's mic, got his mic, people from the Home Depot, everyone's seeing it. And this nigga just let loose. He had a lot on his mind. And I'm trying to steer it. I'm trying to focus it. I'm trying to be like, yo, this, but fam. I said fam like a million times. I'm like, fam, come on, fam. I'm sure, but like, there's no fear, right? I'm like not afraid. It's a tense situation. And like you're in front of his face now. It's like, fuck it, whatever happens, happens. Like it's I'm not tripping on that. Like I'd agreed to do it. But I'm like trying to get to because he's just going off. He's like, y'all fucking up my life. Y'all fucking up my career. These women are fucking up my life. These women are fucking up my career. I remember he said, nobody dribbles a fucking basketball better than me. And they took my whole career away from me. And that was the first time actually that I stood face to face with somebody that gave me the rundown of how coverage can affect their actual life. It was the tension kind of melted away because after a while, he wasn't mad anymore. He was sad. He was emoting. He was like, God damn, y'all don't see what's going on with me. Like I'm in a tough fucking spot. And this is the way this is being put off. And I have nobody out there that's putting my side of it out there. So that's probably the craziest because at the beginning of it, I didn't know whether or not he was going to swing on me or not. He seemed pretty upset. Now, I shouldn't expect that he would do that. He's never swung on anybody in any type of situation he's ever been in before. But like, we was out there in the middle of it, in the deep water. So if all of them, and they put me in that situation knowing that that's the way it was going to be. And me trying to be the motherfucking good-ass company, man, stupid-ass dude. Like, I'm out there doing that shit. So that would probably be the craziest one.
Okay. Well, while you were at TMZ, the thing that you're most known for was when Kanye came in.
Sure.
So Kanye comes in and he starts on his rant. He's talking about Trump and everything else like that. And then he says, when you hear about slavery for 400 years, that sounds like a choice. Like you was there for 400 years and it's all y'all. It's like we're mentally in prison. Do you feel like I'm thinking free and feeling free? And then you responded.
Yeah.
So in case you don't remember all the words, I'm going to actually read what you said.
Okay.
You said, I actually don't think you're thinking anything. I think what you're doing right now is actually the absence of thought. And the reason why I feel like that is because, Kanye, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want. There's fact and real life consequences behind everything you just said. While you're making music and being an artist and living a life that you've earned by being a genius, the rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives. We have to deal with the marginalization that has come from 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice. Frankly, I'm disappointed, I'm appalled, and brother, I'm unbelievably hurt by the fact that you have morphed into something to me that's not real. Does that sound about right?
That's it. Yeah, that was the shit. Yeah.
And I remember since you and I had already developed a relationship and we'd hung out and, we stayed in contact and so forth, I'm like, look at my man go. Okay, yeah, there we go. I love it.
Right.
I don't know if I hit you right afterwards or not, but I was definitely like rooting for you. I'm like, that's what's up. Why did you feel at that moment that you felt the need to basically challenge what he just said, which I think to most human beings was appalling?
Yeah. Number one, he asked. So when Kanye said the slavery was a choice thing, I didn't jump up. People think that I jumped up right after he said that. No, I didn't. Like he's here to on TMZ Live to get his shit off, to get his opinion off. No, he had said all kinds of crazy things up to that point. Well, not crazy, whatever you believe, that his ideas of whatever. I think slavery being a choice is utterly fucking crazy and disrespectful. But he had said all kinds of things, and I didn't. It's like whatever. He said more shit than that in the interview. So But then he turned around and he asked my opinion. He asked the whole room. That was a challenge to me. Like, do you feel like I'm thinking freely? Like, am I thinking freely? I'm like, no, you're not thinking. Because if you were thinking, you would never say that about the people that got beat with whips and chains so that you could be a music star up here. They had to survive for you to be here. So no, it wasn't a choice. It was an indoctrination. It was the brutalization. It was the rape. It was the exploitation of people over hundreds of years. And they survived it so you could be up here questioning whether or not they had the mental strength to break out of their chains. Now, I understood even then, a lot of people look at me now and they go, do you understand what Kanye West was trying to say? Yeah, I do. I understand what Kanye West was trying to say. I do. Kanye West was trying to say that slavery, as much as it is a physical construct and an actual place where you're in bondage, it cannot exist without a correlating mental enslavement as well. And the mental enslavement that goes along with any type of situation is oftentimes more difficult to break than the actual physical enslavement. Cool. That's fine. I agree with that, right? I can't have my ancestors be the mascot for that. Like, they're sacred to me. Like, you can't have them be your example of weakness, because to me, they're my examples of strength. They're my example of survival. They're my example of perseverance. Like, people look at slavery as just like we didn't die. Nah, we did more than that. We got married. We invented things. We fought back. One of the biggest misconceptions is that slave revolts were just Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey. Denmark Vesey's didn't go off, and that nobody know there were tons of slave revolts, and slaves revolted in other ways. They revolted by slowing the work down. They revolted by leaving plantations at night and walking to go meet their children and family in other plantations and breaking the rules. There were all kinds of things that they did to subvert what they were going through. Now, if you don't take the time to educate yourself on how Black people have been fighting against the American system of racism and exploitation since they've been here, then that's on you, and that's cool. But I, or a lot of other people, can't have it in a situation where you're getting that shit off about them unchallenged, and then after having asked me my opinion, I stay quiet on it. I would have felt like a sucker. I would have felt like a sucker had I not said something. And what I said wasn't to break him down or make him look crazy. It was to answer his fucking question.
Yeah, and that sort of became a big, Kanye said some wild shit over the years, but I feel like that was, to this day, the one thing that people really have a sticking point about with him. Because a lot of people spoke out. I think Stevie Wonder said that it's nonsense, that it's ridiculous. A lot of people really were upset over that point of view. And Kanye even, I think, went on Twitter to try to defend himself somewhat. Did you and Kanye ever have any conversations after that?
Yeah, he called that night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He called you on the phone?
Yeah.
And you guys had a private conversation?
Well, he called that night and invited me to Calabasas to come talk to everyone. And
who was everyone?
I didn't know who was all there. See, this is the fucked up part. So
okay, I didn't know this part of the story.
So so that night he calls and he asks, do you want to, look, come out here and talk? I didn't feel like it was good for me to go because I felt like I would have felt corny being in the picture with him the next day, which, by the way, had I had to do over again, I probably would have gone, because being 3 years removed from it, what I didn't want to look like was that I was in any way capitulating to his celebrity, or that I felt like what I said meant a lot to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And because it meant a lot to a lot of people, then those people might be disappointed or felt like in some way I got vacuumed up into something by me going to sit down and have a conversation with them. Mm. Which, if it was now, I definitely would have gone, just because, like I said before, even as it regarded Boosie, the engagement and the sharing of information is more important than what it's going to look like for me. what it's going to look like for me and my celebrity or whomever I am or whomever I purport to be is less important than actually engaging one of your brothers in a discussion that can be mutually beneficial, not just to you and him, but to the community and the society as a whole. But for that night, he had said, yo, come out. I guess he had called Charlamagne and got my number. He's like, come out and like sit down and, and talk to us. And like talk to me, like go back and forth with me, whatever. And I told him, and we had a conversation, and I told him how I felt about him. I told him that he meant a lot to me musically. He meant a lot to me personally, that, I had gone through Hurricane Katrina as a member of the South Louisiana community, and the George Bush doesn't care about black people moment was a huge moment. I told him I meant no ill will and that I hope one day that we could talk, but I didn't feel like it was appropriate to go out there that night and talk to him. You know what I mean? But coming to find out that the fucking place was fucking star-studded. Fucking, I heard Dave Chappelle was over there. It was all kinds of people over there hanging the fuck out, and maybe it would have been a cool scene. But at that point, I did not go out there and talk because I wanted to stand strong on what it was that I said. We ended up exchanging some emails later on in that summer where I felt it necessary to really get to some sort of clarity between him and I. And I emailed him. He emailed me back. We talked for a little while, and that was that.
Okay, so that happens, and I feel like your TMZ career continued to grow.
Right.
You had the Van Lathan's Red Pill podcast. So you were given like your own kind of spin-off show.
I have been doing that before the Kanye thing.
Okay, before. Okay, but but the show kept going.
Yeah.
You had more.
That helped everything.
Yeah, exactly. You had more visibility. You had bigger guests on the show. Everything's going well. Then October 2019 happens. Now, the details of this are relatively sketchy.
Okay.
Because the incident that we're talking about was not actually broadcast.
No, it wasn't. There's video of it, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's screenshots.
There's screenshots. Yeah.
And the screenshots that I saw was your hands around one of your coworkers' necks.
Okay.
Is that accurate?
No.
It's not?
Nah.
Okay. So, apparently something happened with Michael Babcock, one of your coworkers, white guy who's relatively on the conservative side of things, right?
Right.
Right wing. So, tell me what happened leading up to the incident.
So that morning, there was a story and it was about Ellen DeGeneres and hanging out with like George W. Bush.
Right.
And I got all pissed off about it because, George W. Bush did a fantastic career makeover. He did a fantastic career makeover in sort of rebranding himself as not a war criminal and not the guy who left my cousins and them drowning in flood waters with fucking snakes and alligators in them. He was just like a president that just wasn't as bad as Trump and he liked to paint. And he did a fantastic rebrand and everybody was in on it. Like everybody was like
Michelle Obama
having fun with him and all of that. And those people are entitled to that. But for me, being from down there and having seen the situation, it's just more difficult for me. So Ellen DeGeneres palling around with George W. Bush, she's entitled to do that. She doesn't have to. She's from New Orleans too. Like she doesn't have to. But for me, it's like fuck George W. Bush. I don't hope anything bad happens to him, but like I'm off it forever, right? It's not my thing. So I get super into that earlier in the show. Like TMZ Live happens in the middle of the day. TMZ, the television show, is like first thing in the morning, like 6:45, like when we first come in. And then after that, I say, I don't want to talk about this on TMZ Live. I said, it's too personal. It's too upsetting. I don't want to talk about this on TMZ Live. I don't. And they kept asking me. It's like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. They kept asking me. Anyway, I can't remember exactly what happened during the segment. But during the segment, Mike kept shouting over me, talking over me. And because he was in the host chair that day, Harvey wasn't there. I haven't seen Harvey since before that day. Harvey wasn't there. Mike was hosting with Charles. Now, to understand this entire situation, you have to understand the relationship between me and Mike. Mike was by far my closest friend at TMZ.
Okay.
Not even, me and Mike still talk all the time. Like Michael sent me random stuff, just random stuff about reminiscing and all of that. Me and Mike were thick as thieves. Anybody would say it was Van and Mike Babcock. We worked in the same place. We were all on the sports team. Me, Mike, Lucas, all of us. We were tight, a tight group. Such a tight group that it became like an HR thing. Like y'all got a little boys club over in sports, they would tell us. So when I say that to say that what happened in the office could have only happened between me and Mike because of the familiarity that existed with us, right? So Mike, after the thing is over, I felt like he was talking to me in a fucked up way, right? In front of everyone. So I'm pissed, no doubt. I go over there and I put my hands, I come up from behind him because he's in the host seat. And I put my hands on his shoulders. Like, my hands weren't like this. They were like this. And I'm just actually put my hands on his shoulders so I can lean over and talk to him. If you watch the video, you'll see it. I say something. I say, go ahead, give it to me.
This is the picture right here.
So that right there, that's that freeze frame right there is because he's turned. Uh-huh. So my hands were like this, right? And then he turned and I have my hand right there. So, but show me that picture again. And show it to the audience.
Yeah. We'll put up the picture.
Yeah, put up the picture. I'm whispering in his ear. I'm literally whispering in his ear. If I wanted to come up behind him and choke him, I could have come up behind him and put him in a sleeper hold. I could have come up behind him and put my hands around his throat. There's no way I would ever hurt Mike. There's no way. No one in that office believes that I was a physical threat to anybody in the office. Like, just nobody believes that. It's like, it's kind of a thing. But yeah, so that happens. I whisper in his ear, yo, dog, seriously, that was too much. That was fucked up. You know you can't talk to me like that. And if you watch the whole video, he says something, he turns around, he turns around like this, and then he actually moves my hand, and then I move it. Like literally when he moves my hand, and when he moves my hand, I move it. Like I move my hand. I actually move it out of the way. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I actually, when I leave, I actually pat him, and then I point and I go back to my seat. Charles, it wasn't actually that. The whole time that's happening, Charles is laughing. Huh. What happened was when I walked away, I did say to him, I done told you now, don't fuck with me like that. Not again. Like, do not do that to me again. Don't talk to me like that again. And at that point, Charles felt like it had gone too far, and he said, Van, go home. It's the last time I ever been in TMZ.
Okay. So you got sent home that day, and you thought, okay, disagreement at work, not a huge deal. Mm-hmm. But then, I guess you had to meet with the attorneys.
They called.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They called you
yeah.
to talk about the situation.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, did you think that things had escalated beyond what you thought?
No, it wasn't the attorneys at first. It was HR. When they mentioned physical contact, I was surprised because when they were like, "Yo, this is a physical thing," I was like, what do you mean? She was like, "Well, you grabbed him." I was like, "I grabbed him." I was like, "I put my hands on his shoulders." I would put my hands on Mike's shoulders all the time. Like it's like it was like I would go over to Mike, like if I was whispering some of his story, I put my hand on his shoulder, talk to him. I was like, I had no fucking clue. And then I was like, oh shit, this is fucking real. And they were like, we're gonna take a couple of days and like we're gonna decide whatever that's going on and stuff.
Okay. Well, were you able to get Michael to kind of step in on your behalf and say, hey, listen, it's cool. He didn't grab me. We're friends. This is being blown out of proportion. I want to speak up on Van's behalf. Or
he claims he did. I mean, I have no choice but to like believe him. But like, I wouldn't not believe him. You know what I mean? Like me and him were talking throughout the whole thing.
Huh.
Like his girl reached out to me. Like Mike's, everyone. Like Mike called me on the phone crying. He's like, I cannot believe that this was like a weird thing that was going on, and it was just like a weird occurrence, like a weird happening. But me and him I had a going away party like after I was actually fired, right? Because what happened was this: a couple of days into that, they start. We're gonna look at it. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that, and then they decide, okay, well, like, do you want to say anything, or do you want to do anything, or did you want to do this or do that? And I was like, nah, not really. And they were like, all right, well, we're gonna have to go ahead and terminate you. And I was like, okay, cool. Like literally, I was like, all right, cool. And then they let me go, and my coworkers at TMZ threw me a going away party. Cause like maybe like the next week it was quiet, but then, so they let me go maybe on like a Friday. Then that whole next week it was quiet. And then that weekend, my coworkers got together and threw me a going away party that they had that next Saturday.
Was Michael Babcock there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he was at the party.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them were. What happened was they posted the pictures of the party on Instagram. They start going around. Mm-hmm. Monday, the Page Six story came out. And so either the Page Six story came from me relaying parts of the story to somebody that was at that party, and then they talked to Page Six, or TMZ wanted to announce that I was gone before I got a chance to say anything about it, and then they leaked it to Page Six. But then the Page Six story came out that I had a guy call me from Page Six that Monday or maybe that Sunday, and it was that Monday morning, and say that like they were doing a story on what happened.
Yeah, because I mean TMZ. Remember, there was a big piece that was about TMZ and some of the, what they felt was some shady business practices and so forth of getting stories. Mm-hmm. Was the New Yorker who put that out?
I can't remember. It was the New Yorker. I think it was the New Yorker.
Yeah, and I remember there was a certain level of heat on TMZ, mm-hmm. which I'm not sure exactly about the timing, but almost felt like, hey, listen, we're taking some heat over here, so let's just do some damage control and not potentially have this whole Van Lathan thing, maybe tie into this or whatever. No, that's not what it was?
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a bigger deal over that. It just wouldn't have. Mike wouldn't have made a big deal about it. I wouldn't have made a big deal about it. This was that was really about. And we all know it's not a big deal. Like there's no real beef between me and the office right now. The only thing that I would be, so like when my dad passed away, my father passed away this year, like everybody from TMZ reached out, like except for Harvey. Like everyone hit me up like, hey man, your dad passed away. Like they knew, everybody that I had worked there for a long time, they knew that my father was sick. They knew that he had heart problems. I had to take time sometimes to deal with him and help him and do all of that stuff. So my dad passed away. It was still love from everyone. When we won the Academy Award, everyone still reached out. The only person who hasn't reached out really throughout that entire time has been Harvey. But the real situation was that I was at the end of a contract. That happened in October. I think the contract was up in November. I had already informed TMZ that I was not returning.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Aha. Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the reason why you were not coming back to TMZ?
Had too much other shit.
Okay.
Like that summer, I had too many other opportunities. The Kanye thing had happened. It had changed my life. I had a lot of other things I could go do. I wanted to explore those things. I remember, there was some talk about maybe doing some further stuff with Harvey and with TMZ. And we could never get it to work right because it always was stuff that I would have to go do that stuff and then come and be in the office every day and be on the show every day. And I had kind of enough of that. And so I had already said that I'm not re-signing the contract. And so with that situation, you want to save a little money, not pay me the last couple of months or whatever, you have an out, go ahead and get it done. Nobody was upset. They weren't upset. I wasn't upset that I had to leave.
Gotcha. Because I remember shortly afterwards, you end up signing a podcast deal with The Ringer.
Yeah.
Right. And you have the show Higher Learning with Rachel Lindsay.
Uh-huh.
And I remember you also had the Wire podcast with Jamel Hill.
Yeah.
When she came in last time, we talked about that.
Uh-huh.
That was just a limited thing, though, it seemed.
It was just a limited thing with the Wire thing.
Yeah.
Also, I have the Ringerverse where we do like nerd culture and fandom stuff with the.
Uh-huh.
So I do 2 podcasts for the Ringer right now.
Got it. I mean, when you look at your job now, doing podcasts compared to your job at TMZ, granted you're not on television and and so forth. How does it compare? In terms of how you feel your career is going, as well as the money and everything else like that.
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm making more money now than I've ever made before in my life.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and that's from myriad things. Because remember, like, I tell people this about their careers all the time. Your career is not just about what you're doing; it's about what you can't do. So, if you have a career where you can do whatever you want, like go wherever you want, you can pick up whatever bag you want to pick up wherever you want, whatever it is that you're doing, then that's great. But under the TMZ contract that I was under, it was exclusive to Harvey's production company. And because it was exclusive, that means anything else that I want to do, be it a podcast, be it go pick up some money, moderating a panel, doing whatever it was, I had to ask, right? That's the way it goes. Like you want the shot, that's the way it goes.
I mean, same thing with my employees. Like my employees sign a non-compete and so forth, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be paying someone, a salary and benefits and everything else like that for them to take the resources they gain here and benefit your competitor, right? Essentially.
So here's the thing with that. As long as your employees can only get paid by you, that makes sense for them to do. Mm-hmm. So anybody, if you're in a situation where you can only get paid from one person, where you only have value one place, right? It makes sense for you to take whatever value that person at that place is giving you. The moment staying there is costing you money, you should leave.
I agree.
And so like for a lot of people in the situation at TMZ, that wasn't the case. Because it's just not a place that grows stars. It's a place that like you can become known and stuff, but they're not going to do anything to push your social media. They're not going to do anything to enhance your personal brand, because it deleverages them when you come back for a contract negotiation. You might just ask for a little bit more. So for me, because of the Kanye thing, and really, to be honest with you, because of my standing on the show for so many years that I have been on there, it was getting to a point to where I was better off leaving. It's not even better off leaving in a bad way. Like, it had run its course. Like, I had grown. It was time to go do some new stuff. And going to do some new stuff, I was like, okay, I finally have the platform to be able to leave and go do some of that stuff. And so I'll let them know that that's what will be happening.
Most recently, there's the Two Distant Strangers short film.
Yes.
Starring Joey Badass.
Uh-huh.
And the other guy, what was his name?
Andrew Howard and Zaria.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember I watched this on my own without even knowing that you were connected to it, because it was eventually purchased by Netflix.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, this is dope.
Right.
I'm a fan of Joey Badass. I've interviewed him before. I mean, we've run into each other here and there. It was essentially like Groundhog's Day meets BLM.
Right.
In a way.
Sure.
I think that's a fair comparison, right?
Uh-huh.
Now you're a producer on this, on this project.
Yeah.
Jesse Williams and Terrence J are also producers.
Yeah, Kevin Durant, Mike Conley, Sean Combs.
And then there is Lawrence Bender.
Lawrence Bender, yeah, my man.
Who has 8 Oscars and 36 nominations.
Right.
He produced Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, Good Will Hunting, An Uncomfortable Truth, a bunch of big stuff.
Yeah.
So before, winning an Oscar and everyone else has joined in, was this your personal project?
It was. So Trayvon Free, Nick May. I always have to shout out Nick May. Nick May is one of the most important people in my career right now. The company of 6 Feet Over Productions is Trayvon Free, Nick May, Van Lathan. Okay, so we had talked, the three of us, about forming a company and making some stuff, 3 guys, 6 feet over. We're all over 6 feet tall. We look at the world in a very specific way. Trayvon had roots writing for Comedy Central. He's got several stuff going on right now. He's one of the hottest writers in the town right now, Trayvon is. Nick is one of the most well-connected guys in the town, had put on a lot of things for Africa. It's the African American Film Creators Association. His sister is Ava DuVernay. So, he knows his town very well and is just one of the most connected, important, and resourceful guys that I know. Me and Nick got together and we had produced together, or executive produced, with Adam Carolla, a movie called Uppity about Willie T. Ribbs. It was the first Black driver to qualify at, I think it was the Indy 500. So, we decided we wanted to do some more stuff, and we were trying to figure out what it was that we were going to do. And we'd all go over to Lawrence's house because Trayvon and Lawrence lived at Trayvon's house. We'd all go over to Lawrence's house and we would just kick ideas around about what it was that we were going to do and how it was that we were going to make it happen. And I had an idea, Trayvon had an idea, Nick had an idea. We were trying to figure out what was going to be that first thing. And then Trey hits me up one day and he goes, "Bro, I have an idea. And it's something that we can do a little bit later after the pandemic when we can shoot it a little bit more, but I have an idea. It's like blah, blah, blah. And he told me what it was. And I was like, bruh, no, we can't wait. We have to do this now. Well, whatever has to happen in order for us to do this, we have to get it done now. And he turned out a script in 6 days, 10 days, at least a first draft. And then we started building. We started bringing partners in. We brought the guys from, Martin Desmond Rowe, who's the co-director on the movie. Martin Desmond Rowe, amazing, talented guy from Dirty Robber. All of our friends over at Dirty Robber. Our friends at Dirty Robber came over and helped us on the production side of things. They produced it, Me and Nick wrangled logistics and wrangled up money. I put some of my own money in it. Nick put his own money in it. We got other people to put their money in it, and we started building it out. And that's when you get the Kevin Durant's involved, and you get Rich Kleiman involved, and you get Mike Conley involved, and you get me and Puff had a relationship from when I was leaving TMZ, thinking about going over to Revolt. That was another situation that I had, and I'm still looking forward to doing some work with Revolt. I always work with Puff. So, and then Arundé Garrett says, hey, Terrence J wants to be a part of it. So then Terrence J is involved. So we're all together just going 1,000,000 miles an hour, making this thing happen. We get it to the point to where we get a movie that we're proud of. We start submitting it around, and then the rest is history.
And Netflix ended up buying it.
Yeah.
Can you say a rough dollar amount for something like this, or is this pocket watching a little too much?
I don't want to say it because I don't want to ruin any type of potential thing, but millions.
In the millions.
Yeah.
Considering how many people are involved in this, all the producers, Joey Badasses, the Puffies and so forth, considering the number of partners in this, right? In terms of what you got yourself, is it significant, or is it more of, hey, listen, I don't really care about the money I'm getting because this is a bigger picture here and ultimately you won an Oscar?
It was significant for me.
Okay.
I was first money in.
Aha.
So
your first money out, yeah.
Yeah. So it was significant for me. It's a lot of money to me. It might not be a lot of money to somebody like Puff, but definitely a lot of money to me. What I was able to make, it was it's
nice.
It's like a lot of bread.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Uh-huh.
I like to hear that.
Yeah.
I like to hear that. When it got submitted for the Academy Awards and it got nominated, how'd you feel?
Relieved.
Okay. Because that was the plan the whole time?
For me.
Yeah.
I felt relieved. I felt, you know what, man? Things were so, things have been so fucked up, dog, that things have been so fucked up that I don't know if sugar tastes as sweet as it used to. It's something's changed for me. And that is by far one of the biggest accomplishments in my life. But And it feels amazing. It's a once in a lifetime thing. Probably not. You want it to be twice, 3 times in a lifetime. But it was like, I just couldn't take another loss. Like it was, you know, and that's before I even knew that I would go on in the next couple of months to actually lose my dad too. But I had lost so much. The pandemic had taken so much of my inspiration and so much of my joy. Two Distant Strangers and the coalition of people that we built in order to make the movie was healing. And it was, and I was relieved, not even for the sake of the film, but for the sake of what it meant for our collective sanity, that we were able to celebrate the accomplishment and the achievement. So for me, it just, not that it would have meant less had we not have won or had we not have gotten nominated, but it felt like a very much needed win. Like we could cut through the pandemic, we could cut through nobody being able to, you know, we had the costs ran up on it because we had to have special COVID people out there. Just everything was different. Everything was hard. We didn't know what we were doing. There were festivals we didn't get into. There were festivals we did get into. We weren't sure. We were going back and forth creatively. And just to know that everybody delivered. Obviously, Trayvon and Martin delivered. They're the creative filmmakers. They're the tip of the spear. But everybody that said they were going to do something did what the fuck they said they were going to do. And just to know that you could do it was probably the most important thing. But it was relieving. Because if we had gone through all of that and it had not gone that way, it just would have felt like another L in a year and a half of L's.
I mean, how did it feel when they actually called out your name as the winner?
That was euphoric. And then, you know, because we all couldn't go to the awards because they, you know, they pared them down and stuff. So Trayvon and Martin and their dates are at the awards. And Zaria, who was also, I want to make sure Zaria, who's in the movie, is at the awards. And then we're all together, me and Jesse and Nick and Terrence J. We're at Hyde at a little watch party on Sunset. And it's like, you're not paying attention to it. The music's up. And the whole time, like, I'm super nervous. I'm like, yo, what the fuck's going to happen? Like, what's going to go on, blah, blah, blah. And then they say an Oscar goes to Two Distant Strangers. And I wasn't there, but in his speech, Trayvon makes a very beautiful, poignant speech about police brutality and about seeing Black artists. And then Martin says, he starts running off the thank yous. And from the Oscar stage, you hear Van Lathan. And I'm like, it's just all written. It's divine. When I say that, I mean, it's like being on television for 9 years was great. And I have another television show coming out next year. But I could not have made this movie had I been on TMZ. Like, I couldn't, just things work the way they're supposed to do. And all you can really do is learn from them, pick up the pieces, and move on. That's all you have control over.
Yeah, and I thought it was a dope project.
Yeah.
It was a dope project. Joey Badass starred in it. And like when you look at Joey Badass on like Raising Kanan now,
It's great.
I kind of feel like this was sort of the start of his acting career.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was his
No. He had done some stuff before. I want to say that because he had been on Mr. Robot and stuff, but this was a big moment for him.
It was an Oscar.
Yeah.
It was an Oscar-winning moment.
Yeah, it's a big moment.
Definitely people are going to be looking at you differently.
Sure, of course.
And so forth. Yeah. And you know, when I see him in Raising Kanan, I'm like, yo, this guy's acting chops are actually pretty dope. Like,
he's good.
I didn't even realize it was Joey Badass like for a little while. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's, oh shit, okay. Like, you know, in Raising Kanan. But, you know, when I saw him in that role, it was like, yo, here's a rapper who I've interviewed as a rapper, you know, who I've only known as a rapper who's actually pulling this off really well.
All Trayvon, by the way. Like Trayvon
all
just...
the writing and everything? Yeah.
Well, all the writing and stuff, but Trayvon knew Joey could do it. I hadn't really seen Joey act before, and like we were shooting for the stars. We were like, we want Damson and we want Lakeith, and these are guys that we know, right?
Right.
And
you went with Joey Badass.
And Trayvon was like, Joey Badass. And then as soon as he said it, I was like, oh shit. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And he nailed it. It's great.
Yep. Well, at one point, you weighed 365 pounds?
365, yeah.
365. How much do you weigh right now?
270.
Okay.
Yeah.
365 is a lot. I mean, you're 6'4".
Yeah.
You're a bit taller than me.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I weigh like 5 these days.
Right.
You know, and I lost like 25 pounds.
Right.
But 365 is, I mean, that's essentially obese.
Essentially, nigga. That's obese.
That's obese.
Like,
it's an unhealthy weight. It's an unhealthy weight.
It depends on who you are, right? If you're fucking, I don't know, if you're, all of these things are dependent on like your body type and what it is you're doing. So if you're the giant from the WWE, or if you're like, I'm sure Shaq got up to 365 at some point. It depends on who you are. But yeah, for most people, that's going to be an unhealthy weight.
Right. And I know for me, I lost my weight when the pandemic hit and I started seeing the connection between obesity and death.
Sure, yeah.
You know, from COVID, that made me say, okay, I'm really going to take it seriously now. I changed my whole diet. I started tracking my calories. I started, hitting my treadmill every day. And I lost it. And, for me, it was almost a self, preservation kind of thing.
Yeah.
What exactly caused you to gain that much weight? Because when I met you, you were thinner than you are now.
Yeah. So I gained 30 pounds during the pandemic. So we're the opposite. So I'm still trying to get that off right now. And, maybe I will, or maybe this is the fluffy version of me for the rest of my life. Who knows?
Who knows?
But, I have a book coming out. The book is called Fat, Crazy, and Tired, and it talks about this. A lot of it has to do with, obviously, they're all individual choices that you make about your health and your body, right? But it's something to choice if you don't know that you're making it. Like, are you really in control if you're programmed a certain way? That's why the most important thing to do as an adult is not to learn, but to unlearn. Because everything that you've learned coming up has been programming. It's been programmed to you by your parents, by your society, by the police, by whomever. And then when you get to a point you decide what health looks like for you, you have to actually unlearn and deprogram from things, right?
Yeah.
So like, for me, getting to 365 wasn't hard at all.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
Gaining weight is the easiest thing ever.
Yeah, it wasn't difficult at all. It's like a situation where I was playing ball and, competing sports-wise. It was pretty easy to check my weight. But then after that, I live in a community where we eat, we celebrate with food. Like when I lost my dad, I was in the thralls of trying to lose weight, and people were sending food left and right. And they're sending it not because they want to see me gain weight, but because they want me to feel comforted. So in Louisiana, where I'm from, we comfort each other with food. We comfort each other with drink. We comfort each other by sitting around and talking. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But for me, I overindulged into that. And one thing that I tend to do is overindulge. I'll overindulge creatively and write 5-6 days in a row without stopping. I'll overindulge intellectually and just read, and I give my brain a break. I'll overindulge on porn. I remember I used to come here. VladTV was my gateway to just like watch the porn stars talk. I used to be like, God damn, that's a person? Fuck. Look at her. She got like all kinds of ideas, and look, yeah, it was very important. So I used to come, but like I would overindulge in food. And for a time in my life where especially during points before I got out to LA, I pulled away from people a little bit. But the one thing that never says no to you is food.
Yeah.
You might want a bunch of other things to make you feel better, right? You might want a person to make you feel better. You might want a situation to make you feel better. You might want like your parents or somebody to make you feel better. You might want to, and they might all say no because they have agency. Food has no agency. If you want the food to make you feel better, it will. There was one time when I tried to turn the food to make me feel better, and I couldn't, and it didn't work out. It was a very pathetic story. I'll tell it real quick. I worked at Best Buy, store 495, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Mall of Louisiana, Best Buy. And there was a Bennigan's that was in a parking lot on the other side of the Best Buy. You know how you go to one of those malls, and then on the outskirts of the mall, there are all of these shops, and there's a Best Buy and stuff. So I was working, it was a holiday. And my thing is, after I worked at Best Buy and dealt with the customers all day, I like to unwind with a Bennigan's feast. Okay. And this was my Bennigan's feast. Mm-hmm. And it was so crazy because I had a specific way that I would order this. So my Bennigan's feast was like, they had these amazing chicken tenders at Bennigan's, but they were huge, right? And you had a choice of 2 sides, and I would get a loaded baked potato and the fries, which the women at Bennigan's just didn't understand. Like you would go there and you would order the shit and they'd be like, you sure you don't want a broccoli or nothing like that? You got the noodles, baked potato, and the fries? And I'd be like, yeah. And then I would get like the fudge brownie after it. So the whole 9, like we going nuts at Bennigan's. We going crazy. And sometimes in order to do this, when I would go there, I would make a fake phone call. So I would go to the Bennigan's and I would be ordering the food. And then I'd be like, hey, yo, I'm at Bennigan's. Y'all want something?
You pretend to order for someone else.
Yeah. And then they'll be like, oh, you want one of these brownies? Can I get a brownie? Brownie. Yeah, you want the fries? Because they come with 2 sides. I get the fries. The fries? Yeah, you get the fries. You can have the fries. All right, you don't want nothing else? You want no meal or nothing? Okay, cool. All right, yeah, put the fries in there, blah, blah, blah. And the woman look at me pathetic like, nigga, I know this is all for you. I know this is yours. But I remember I'm thinking about the Bennigan's. I'm like, oh my God, man, it's great. I'm going to be able to soothe with food. It's going to be amazing. And I get outside and I look over in the parking lot and there are no cars. I'm looking because I could see it from the Best Buy parking lot. I see there's no cars. I'm like, nobody's fucking with Bennigan's. It wasn't dawning on me that it was Christmas Day, right? It wasn't dawning on me that it was Christmas or Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, one of the days that we had to work on Best Buy. I worked every holiday. And so I go over there and there's one car in the back. Maybe somebody's in there cleaning up or something. I'm thinking, maybe, they got somebody's in there. And as I get closer and closer to the Bennigan's, it starts to dawn on me that they're closed. There will be no food. And I remember I still, knowing it was closed, drove all the way into the parking lot, got out of the car, walked up to the thing and was looking in. I'm looking into the Bennigan's.
Like a crackhead, basically.
Like a crackhead. Like, I ain't got no chicken fingers in there. Like, I'm looking into the Bennigan's. I'm looking into it. And I cried.
Cry.
I'm not gonna bullshit you. Like, I'm not gonna bullshit you.
You could not get your chicken tenders that day.
I cried. Because I remember I went and sat down in the Taurus. And this was like a breaking point moment. It's in the book. This is like a breaking point moment for me. I went and I sat down in the Taurus. I get in the Taurus. I look at myself. I look around. Fucking Popeyes boxes in there and all kinds of shit like that. I'm like, yo, man, this is fucking pathetic. And I don't even get the high of the food. I'm like, I gotta change and I can't. And I cried. I was like, yo, man, I'm out of control. I'm like, yo, man, what? I gotta stop. I gotta do better. I'm out of control. I cried. And and I remember, I think about that all the time because it still be 5 years after that I would go ahead and lose weight. At my lowest, I was about 225. During this time, I'll get down to like 235 after I lose this pandemic weight. And that's why I'll stay for my whole life.
Well, as someone who, I'm very serious about my weight. I mean, at my highest, I think I was like 226. Mm-hmm. I'm 6'2". And I just want to tell everyone who's struggling with weight, what helps for me, at the end of the day, there's a certain number of calories that you could eat per day, which will maintain your weight. If you go over those calories, you'll gain weight. If you go under those calories, you'll lose weight.
You'll lose weight, yeah.
After you watch this interview, if you're struggling with weight, go weigh yourself. Mm-hmm. And realize that at this particular moment, this will be the heaviest you'll ever be in your entire life.
Yeah.
As long as you keep your calories under what you're supposed to eat moving forward.
Yeah.
You will never be heavier than this particular scale, what the scale is telling you right now, as long as you keep your calorie count, in your mind as you move forward.
Yeah.
It's really that easy.
It is. And it takes something, it's something that you have to be dedicated to, but yes. I think it was so easy. I think one of the easiest things in the pandemic to let yourself go was just, for me, I'm not gonna speak for anybody else. The reason why I was so easy to let myself go is because I just couldn't cope. I just needed something, Yeah. And I couldn't go. And normally, even when I came off my diet, I was hooping. I was out moving around and stuff. But for months, they would tell you not to go outside. So I was inside baking banana bread and eat like inside baking banana bread, watching D Nice. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing. And then before you know it, and then I did actually, this is another thing that people, I went through a severe bout of depression during the pandemic. And when I went through that, they prescribe medicine to you, and that medicine makes you gain weight.
Yeah. That part I don't know about. I've never gotten to the point of actually.
All right.
No, I remember going through some health issues. I remember they prescribed an antidepressant to me. I took like 1 or 2 pills and it made my head cloudy. And I'm like, no,
I'm done. I can't do it.
I'm done forever. I never took another antidepressant in my whole life. And yeah, man, it's a tough thing. And, I mean, listen, I've interviewed, Buster Douglas, who, the biggest upset in sports history. He beat Mike Tyson. But then when he fought Evander Holyfield, he lost. And, everyone pretty much said he just kind of took the money and he took a fall.
Douglas thing.
Yeah. And I think he got up to like 400 pounds.
It was big.
And he put himself into a diabetic coma.
Yeah.
And almost died. And then after that, he got his life together.
Right.
But he almost died.
Yeah.
Diabetic coma. I mean, he didn't have diabetes, before the Holyfield fight.
Right.
He gave himself diabetes.
Right.
From depression.
Right.
And eating.
Right.
And almost killed himself. So keep that in mind, for everyone who's watching, like, it's serious. I'm 48 years old. I realize that if I want to continue to live and enjoy this life that I've built up for myself, I have to keep my weight down.
Right.
I have to exercise. I have to watch my calories. I have to not eat the way I just was eating when I was 20 years old. My metabolism isn't the same. And then there's COVID on top of it.
Right.
That kills off obese people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what it is. I'm glad that, you took it serious. I'm glad that you lost weight.
Yeah.
And, I think you're an important person. We want to keep you around.
Yeah. And I want to continue to do it. This is, I'm boxing now 5 days a week. I'm in there with Phil Polina. I'm boxing.
Nice.
Me and Nick Young and all of the guys, we're in there boxing. So it's peeling off, but more importantly, it's about feeling good.
Yeah.
We get to a point to where you're healthy and you feel good.
Yeah.
And, you define that for yourself.
As someone who went through a Kanye moment, when you look at Kanye since then, he hasn't said slavery is not a choice anymore, but he said some pretty wild shit along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. Remember when he quit? He went on the rant and he quit his whole tour right then and there. Was that before or after your situation?
It's before. Talking about because it was the tour where it was the big thing. Yeah, it's before.
Yeah, he ended up quitting. Recently he was on Drink Champs when he said signing Big Sean was the worst mistake of his life.
Yeah.
He called Just Blaze a copycat. He dissed Talib Kweli.
Right.
These are all people that, he was really cool with and had a lot of love for him. And, I think even up until he said that, when you see the success with Kanye, but also these outbursts and some of the craziness that happens with him, what's your take on it?
So here's the thing. I think that I've gotten to a place of peace with Kanye. And that seems like a big fucking statement. Who the fuck gives a fuck what I think about Kanye? But I think for me personally, I try to dig through the shit to get the jewels now. And I guess the question that I ask myself when I do it is it worth digging through the shit to get the jewels? Because for some people, for a lot of people, it's worth putting up with their shit to get to the jewels that are in the shit. Mm-hmm. Because all that shit about Sean, all of that shit about John Legend, all of that shit about Talib, all of that's nothing. That's like a completely different thing. Those are great guys. Like that has nothing to do with anything. That's just him being on his shit and doing his thing. There are amazing ideas that Kanye West has, obviously, because he's a transcendent talent and a visionary creative. But then there are some things that are as common as the cold. There are some things that are just have to do with the perception that he has of himself. There are some things that have to do with how people treat him. How many times in that interview did Kanye talk about the fact that people wanted a different version of him that he never felt like he measured up to, that Tata would look at him crazy, or that like he never felt like he was one of the gangsters. He wasn't gangster enough. He wasn't this enough. Like, that affects a person. And sometimes what drives people to be great is the idea that no one accepts their greatness. So you have to be greater and greater and greater and greater until they can't help but accept your greatness. I think that's part of what has pushed Kanye West to be who he is the fact that, 5-6 years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, he was getting on interviews and mentioning fashion guys that we had never heard of before in our lives and saying these people won't let me in. And they didn't let him in. They didn't let him in until he kicked down the door doing exactly what he does and didn't just let himself in, but built his own shit. And that's a hell of a lesson for you to take. I think the one thing that troubles me about Kanye West is something that I see from people all over the place now is that Kanye talks about free speech, right? He talks about the fact that he should be able to say whatever he wants to say. And that's true, right? He should be able to say whatever he wants to say, and he does say whatever he wants to say. But he doesn't seem to like other people's free speech very much. And there's something that to me, I look at this, is that Kanye doesn't want free speech. What he actually wants is white speech. And let me tell you what I mean by that. So free speech is you say what you want to say, then they don't come put you in jail and they don't kick you in your ass. That's all free speech is, guys. Free speech is I go out and I say, hey, fuck Walmart. And I can't be persecuted criminally and nobody can come beat me up legally just because I said that. Okay, that's all free speech is. Now, Walmart's free speech is then to say, hey, you can't have a Walmart deal. Walmart can then exercise their free speech, right? Free speech is you say what you want to say, I say what I want to say, either based upon what you said or for whatever reason. That's free speech. It doesn't go any further than that. Meaning if you say something and then there are consequences for it, your speech was still free. You're just suffering the consequences. This is what white speech is. White speech is saying whatever you want to say and there being absolutely zero repercussions for you saying it. And I'll tell you why I say that that's white speech. That is how white people used to run America and talk to black people in the days of old, right? You could look at a black man, you could say, hey, come here, boy, nigger. You could get on TV and say whatever you want to say, but no other group was powerful enough to make you change what it is that you were saying or to impose any type of consequence for what it is that you were saying. So you could say whatever you wanted to say and no one would say anything back. No one would have anything adverse to say. No one would challenge you. No one would pull your coat because that was a time where the speech of white supremacy had its thumb all over America. It still does, but much more subtly now. So sometimes when these guys say, you take a Bill Maher or a Kanye West, or anyone who doesn't like somebody that's talking back, who doesn't like another opinion coming at them, you don't want to talk like freely. What you're saying is you want to talk like a white man. You want to talk like somebody who never has to say they're sorry. You want to talk like you want to be able to say shit and have people just have to take it for years and years and years and then never come back at you, right? So when I hear him say that like Big Sean and John Legend and the rest of these guys, that they are sellouts to the Democrats. Well, are you a sellout to the Republicans? Are you a sellout to Trump? You fuck with Trump, you love Trump. That's your own personal belief. If I'm in an interview and I'm Big Sean and I'm John Legend and I don't want to be fucking like tethered to Trump through my association with you and someone asks me about that, I am going to give a response to that. And my response does not have to favor your belief system. Like I get to say, you get to say I love Trump and I get to say fuck Trump. You get to say I love Biden and I get to say fuck Biden. You get to say, hey, all of these people are fucked up and I don't like their lifestyle. And those people get to say, no, fuck you. You can't go do this. Anything else is un-American. So when I hear him talking about the way people are talking back to him, based upon what he says, nobody has to accept your bullshit. Nobody has to accept what they think is your bullshit. It might not be bullshit to you, but it might be bullshit to them. So I'm listening to a lot of people complain about the fact that they feel like they can't say nothing. Nah, it's not that you can't say nothing. It's that everybody can say everything that they want to say. So when you say what you say, you better fucking mean it. You better fucking stand on it. And you better be willing to take the consequences that come with it. And that's the only thing I would say to everyone. Like, get on niggas because they don't fuck with what it is that you're saying. Don't come at people because they don't agree with what it is that you're saying. Even this, you come out and you say something, you lose a bunch of deals. It's the way it goes. And everybody plays that game. Now, we can debate on whether or not you saying what you said should have led to that, and we can negotiate that. But if what you're saying is hateful or harmful or marginalizing to any group, then of course there are going to be people that exercise their free speech by saying, I don't want to work with this person. Mm-hmm. So whatever you say, just make sure you fucking mean it. And if you're going to stand on it, then stand on everything that come with that.
You know, we're coming off of the Astro World tragedy. At the time of this taping, 9 people are dead. Most recently, there was a young woman who was taken off life support because she was brain dead. There's also a child who I believe had serious organ damage and so forth. So we're not quite sure, after the dust completely settles, what's going to happen. But when you look at this particular situation, do you feel that Travis Scott is mostly responsible, not responsible at all, or someplace in the middle?
I don't know. And I wish that we would refrain from from determining things about it until we do know. I don't know. There are so many variables that go on into that. Like, there's so many things that have to do with that. Like, anytime you have your face all over something and something goes horribly wrong with it, put it to you like this. I know that it's up to Travis Scott to fix it all. Now, you can't fix 9 dead. Those people are gone forever. They're not coming back. But whatever happens from now on, it's definitely going to be up to Travis Scott to try to provide some closure to the families, to deal with the aftermath of it. That's certainly his responsibility, without a doubt, because it's his event at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's his event. But in terms of why this happened, I think it would benefit everyone to reserve judgment on it until we know exactly why it happened. And if we find out that this was a failing from the people who produced the concert, along with a history of Travis Scott's concerts being a little unruly, along with the cops not being stringent enough about their reservations about putting the concert on, and then it's all that together, and then there was somebody at the tip of it that could have made a difference, then that person's got to fall. But beyond that, for me, it's hard for me to just be like, oh, it's Travis Scott's fault, when I really don't know what goes into making a festival safe, why certain festivals are safe and certain festivals aren't safe, like what they did or didn't do, whose job is it to do or not do these things, what kind of communication was being had. You know, I don't know. So, but I think something interesting about this is the way people cope. People cope with tragedies like this by finding somebody to blame. I learned that. Yeah.
Of course. They need a face. Because, I don't know if you remember this or not, but almost the same thing happened to Puffy, decades ago. Like, I remember I interviewed Gene Deal, his former security, and there was a celebrity basketball game that happened in the 90s where 9 people died.
Oh, wow.
Do you know about this?
I do not.
Yeah, it was a celebrity basketball game, and like Mike Tyson and Heavy D and LL Cool J were there, and apparently, I guess they had like chained the doors to prevent people from sneaking in.
Right.
So when a bunch of people rushed, people got crushed.
Right.
9 people dead.
Right.
People forgot about this, and this was not Puffy of the Puffy today. He was not on a Travis Scott level.
Right.
But, these things happen.
Right.
This is not new in the world of concerts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, with the Travis Scott thing, look, he did encourage people to sneak in. I believe he even, I believe he got on stage and said, if you don't have tickets, so you're that's going to haunt him. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure there were
that's
mistakes
going to haunt him.
Sure,
his history of, putting up pictures of people passed out and saying, oh, you're the,
Well, not all of that shit comes back to bite you in your ass.
Exactly. All this stuff comes back out. Obviously, things happened. There was an ambulance that he could probably see during the point. It's a fucked up, sad situation. But, what's interesting to me, in all this is that how you could go from being the hottest, most loved, artist, one of the top most loved artists in the world. Everyone wants Travis Scott. Drake's new album has a Travis Scott feature.
Yeah.
Kanye's new album was supposed to have a Travis Scott feature, which ended up not making, it was like the first single or whatever. He's doing McDonald's deals. He's got the hottest Nike shoe. Like everyone from corporations to fans to Fortnite to whoever, to other rappers, to other singers, they all wanted to work with him. In the blink of an eye, all that changed.
Yeah.
All that changed so quickly, that it's really like, wow, like there's really a lesson to be learned here.
I remember I used to watch, the comedian Chris D'Elia?
Yeah.
So it used to be hilarious. Chris D'Elia would go on the Fighter and the Kid podcast all the time. And I can't remember the name of the guy that hosts the Fighter and the Kid podcast with Brendan Schaub. I don't know why my name is blanking on this right now, but he got canceled too. But I remember,
or the grooming thing.
This was Chris D'Elia's. Chris D'Elia
yeah.
was the grooming thing. This other guy got canceled for something else. What's the guy's name? He was in The Hangover. Brian Callen. But him and Chris D'Elia would come on the podcast, and it was peak white boy humor, right? Peak white boy humor, going back and forth, all kinds of stuff. Peak white boy humor, hilarious, right? Very funny. I remember Chris D'Elia used to do this thing to where he would talk about how much money he was making. It was a very funny bit. He would be like, it didn't make a dent. Like he'd be like, he'd say something and he'd be like, yeah, I bought all of this. I bought the dinner, I bought all of this, and it didn't make a dent. And it would just be funny every time he would say it because you knew it was coming and he was just being such an arrogant asshole. And Brian Callen looked at him one time and he was like, you shouldn't brag about your money because, and he was saying it in a joking way, but it was so real. I remember this as soon as Chris D'Elia got in trouble, he said, you shouldn't brag about your money because it's very temporary and it can all be taken away from you at any time. He said that to him on the podcast. And then lo and behold, some years later, Chris D'Elia got into a shitstorm of trouble from allegedly grooming girls or whatever was going on based upon a role that he had portrayed on a Netflix show. And then they came and got him. And I was just thinking, damn, like there's so many people out there that I would have never thought that in my life I would have this opinion of them. I never saw the Bill Cosby thing coming. The R. Kelly thing was willful ignorance on behalf of the whole culture. But to think at 11, or at 12 years old, me and my parents and my sister sat around and we watched the last episode of The Cosby Show and we mourned the fact that the show was going off the air.
Yeah.
It was like, what happens to Bill Cosby now? Are we going to be able to chill with Bill Cosby for 30 minutes a week, every single week? And now, just completely different. Like, really, I mean, that wasn't one thing, but all of this is based on perception, man. And your perception can change in an instant. Mm-hmm. Henry Ruggs, you know what I mean? Like your perception can change in an instant. You have to be responsible for what it is that you say and what it is that you do and what it is that you're a part of. You know what I mean? I was lucky to come out of that TMZ thing with my reputation. It's just that people knew me well enough to know that I'm not a dangerous, violent, crazy guy. But it didn't have to be that way. And it doesn't have to be that way for a lot of people.
Well, number one, it just shows how important it is to manage your money properly. Because as an entertainer, you're going to have a cancel moment at some point. Right. There's going to be something you say that's going to upset a whole bunch of people, and you're going to have to weather it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, whether you get canceled or the pandemic comes and knocks out your financial plans or whatever else, you have to be financially set up to weather it and have a base of money put aside and have your investments and really set up for the future, potentially for a couple of years. Because when this happens, the last thing you want is to be paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
And suddenly lose your home, lose your car, lose your family, you know what I mean? Because it all comes with it.
Yep.
It all comes with it.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to weather it. Because eventually, man, listen, Travis Scott, will he ever get back to the height of where he was 2 weeks ago?
Uh-huh.
Who knows? maybe that was going to be the height of his success anyways.
Anyway, yeah.
Who knows? You know? But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, Chris Brown was the most hated man in the world for beating up Rihanna when the picture came out, and he eventually recovered.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Bill Cosby, when he was found, you know, not guilty in the Supreme, you know, in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, you know, it seemed like the core fan base welcomed him back with open arms. Yes, some people are going to say, oh, he's still a rapist, but in general, the effect that I saw with my audience, which is, you know, millions of people,
yeah,
they were mostly happy that he was out.
Yeah, Bill fucked up. Bill fucked up out here though. Bill still, I mean, they still got people that's riding for Bill, but Bill fucked up out here. It's not the same as it was. But
that's what I'm saying. I mean, ultimately, to get really canceled, they have to put you in prison like R. Kelly.
I mean, nobody gets really canceled, bro. Like the whole.
Well, when you're in prison, you really are canceled.
Well, I mean, you could say that, or you could say, I mean, you're canceled. But my thing is this:
R. Kelly could not drop any new albums in prison right now.
R. Kelly
he could not record any new material. And it sounds like he might get essentially life in prison. So
yeah, my whole thing about the canceling is it's not worth the energy that's put into it. Man, it's hard to maintain negative energy, and it's corrosive.
True.
So it's difficult to maintain negative energy, and it's corrosive. And we just can't be throwing people away. We can't be throwing people away. But like, the people that I grew up around and the people that I've seen some dudes go through some dark periods. I've seen some people hurt some people. I've seen some people sell some stuff. I've seen these men turn into some of the greatest husbands, fathers, and community leaders that we have at our disposal right now. And it's because someone believed in them enough not to accept the worst for them and to hope for the best out of them. And we have to maintain that sort of energy. If no other community does it, the Black community has to, because we need to capitalize on the creative minds and the business forces and the community leaders that we have. And unfortunately, with the history of us in this country, not everyone's going to make it out unsullied by the circumstances that they were born into. So canceling people for us is counterproductive to the overall goal that I feel like we should have. But I'll tell you this, that doesn't mean that everyone has to put up with everybody's bullshit. That doesn't mean that. That just means that somebody's going to have to be there to help some of these people pick up the pieces. Now, I will draw lines. If you've ever hurt a woman, I just can't, you know what I mean? If you've hurt a woman in any way, you're raping people or anything like that, because now you've taken something from her that she can't get back. So we have to draw a clear line of women, hurting children, all of that stuff like that. But for me, people that have bad ideas or that are going about things in the wrong way, somebody has to talk to them. Somebody has to be there to have the conversations that might change their outlook. Somebody has to. And so I just hope that people, more than anything, give space to the people that feel like they want to have these conversations, because they're educational and they're healthy for everyone.
Well said. Well said. Man, Lathan, man.
Yes.
You and I go back many years.
Yeah,
glad we finally got a chance to do this. Congratulations once again on your Oscar.
Appreciate you.
That's something that's going to, you know what I mean? That's going to carry on forever.
I appreciate
you're
that,
part of You're a part of movie history right now.
I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? Congratulations on the podcast. You know, congratulations on the new book that's coming, on the new TV show and so forth. I mean, you know, I believed in you really from the very beginning.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Even when, you know, you left TMZ, I remember I hit you. I'm like, hey, let's, you know, are you open to doing some stuff? You're like, oh, I've already signed the Ringer deal. So I'm like, okay, I was a little too late. But you know what I'm saying? But I still reached out.
Sure, of course.
Because I've always believed, you know, in your talent and what you could bring to the table and so forth. So, you know, I mean, this is very, you know, sincere on my part.
I appreciate that.
You know what I mean? So congratulations on everything, man. I wish you all the best.
All right, brother.
Until next time. Peace.